the regular meeting of the Metropolitan Council, Wednesday, September 28th. Good to see everybody here, and I call this meeting to order. If there are any recommended changes to the agenda, speak now. Otherwise, we'll move on and assume the agenda is approved. And first order of business is the minutes from September 14th meeting. Is there a motion and a second to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Lee. Any discussion, questions, corrections? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is adopted. The minutes are approved. At this point is when we have an opportunity for members of the public who wish to address the council on matters not on the agenda may do so. And we will limit those comments to 3 minutes. Generally, we have people who register ahead. Bridget?
No.
No. All right. I see no members of the public, so we'll move on to our first order of business, which is to approve the third quarter budget amendment, which we must do by a roll call vote, just to keep Bridget in practice. So, Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is business item 2022-241. It's a joint item, the Unified Budget Amendment. The 2022 third quarter budget amendment makes changes to the operating budget in Metro Transit and the capital budget in Metropolitan Transportation Service and Metro Transit. The proposed amendment was reviewed and approved by the Transportation Committee on September 12th and the Management Committee on September 14th. In Metro Transit's operating budget, the amendment moves $8 million in MVest from the operating budget to the capital budget, and $8 million in federal formula funds from the capital budget to the operating budget. This is done for the administrative ease of balancing the funds between operating and capital programs. This dollar-for-dollar exchange of funds has no impact on regional MVest allocations, MVest reserves, operating reserves, or planned capital projects. In the MTS and Metro Transit capital budget, this amendment authorizes $5.9 million in new funds for 4 projects in the MTS ACP for the small bus fleet. The amendment also authorizes changes to 14 projects in the Metro Transit ACP, adding a total of $20.6 million to the ACP. The emphasis in this amendment is to continue to provide the financing to maintain the transit fleet in a state of good repair, consistent with FTA guidelines. This item was, again, heard on September 4th in Management, September 12th in Transportation. So, Mr. Chair, the motion is that the Metropolitan Council authorizes the 2022 Unified Budget Amendment as amended and in accordance with the attached tables in the report for the Council. So I would make that motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion, questions? All right. Hearing none. Bridget, you may call the roll.
Johnson.
Aye.
Chambliss.
Aye.
Barber.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Pacheco.
Aye.
Lilligren.
Aye.
Luce.
Aye.
Benda.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Fredson.
Aye.
There's Ellie.
I was just waiting too patiently. Aye. All right, that motion is approved and carried. On to the consent agenda. May I have a motion and a second for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Barber. Second? Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. On to the reports from the standing committees, beginning with Community Development. Councilmember Lilligren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Council members, Community Development Committee brings one item to vote on. We had item on the consent agenda as well. This is business item 2022-253. It's to authorize a comprehensive plan amendment for the city of Andover. And Mr. Chair, council members, this item was originally scheduled on the consent agenda for our September 21st, 2022 meeting. of the Community Development Committee, but the meeting was canceled due to lack of a quorum. So we've consulted our legal staff, and they have indicated that we can take this item directly here to the council meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for putting it on the agenda. Coming directly to the council will ensure that we don't have to delay the local government and developer to move forward with their development plans. The city's comprehensive plan amendment proposes a text change to allow for up to 20% of commercial use in multifamily buildings within the urban residential high-low land use district. The second part of the amendment re-guides 14 acres of general commercial and urban residential medium to entirely within the urban residential high-low land use. The amendment site is located southeast of the Hanson Boulevard and Crosstown Boulevard intersection. And the purpose of this amendment is to accommodate the multifamily senior housing project in townhomes consisting of a total of 232 units. Staff find that Andover's plan and the proposed amendment conforms with regional systems plans, is consistent with council policies, and is compatible with the plans of adjacent and affected jurisdictions. So, Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council first authorize the City of Andover to place its comprehensive plan amendment into effect. Also, find that the amendment does not change the city's forecast. And finally, advise the city to implement the advisory comments in the review record for natural resources.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Cummings. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Thank you, that motion carried. The Environment Committee has no reports. On to the Management Committee. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have two items before the council tonight. First, we have business item 2022-249, Information Technology Temporary Staffing Services. It's contract 22P330. Information Services provides essential technologies that underpins the business operations of all council divisions. In situations where the IS staff do not have the sufficient capacity or the optimal skills to use to deliver temporary staff, makes it possible for IS to deliver critical services on time. When council IS staff vacancies exist, temporary staffing permits IS to when council's IS staff vacancies exist, temporary staffing permits IS to continue operations as we fill those vacancies. The agreements addressed by this business item are part of a broader proactive framework that the council is establishing to ensure sufficient IS staffing, including expanded recruiting and a forthcoming RFP for IT staffing services will exist. So, Mr. Chair, under this business item, I move that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to execute contracts 22P330A through D for information technology temporary staffing services for a total amount not to exceed $6 million.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Lilligren. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion carried. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and this is item 2022-251, and it is construction and design build contracts thresholds increase for the council. Business item 2022-251 is to authorize an increase to the expenditure policy 14-2 to accept or reject any offer for the procurement of construction or design build projects up to $10 million, and that's up from $2.5 million. Last change was made in 2013. The construction industry has shifted significantly since then, including the current market volatility of supply chain shortages, labor shortages, and price volatility. These projects are highly standardized using a templated contract that has been approved by the Office of General Counsel and Risk Management. There will be no changes to the DBE or MCUB goal setting or review process. Additionally, each project is pre-approved annually through the pertinent committee, and it is based on an independent cost estimate and verified through a cost analysis. This is a continuous improvement effort to help projects that the council has move from bid submittal to notice to proceed faster. It really helps us to be more competitive, and it really does help our DBE and MCOB goals, because a lot of those vendors don't have the time that it takes when we've got the longer delays with the lower threshold. This proposed action is for the Metropolitan Council to adopt the attached version of FM 14-2, expenditures for the procurement of goods, services, and real estate policy, and to authorize the regional administrator to award construction and design-build contracts where the value of the contract does not exceed $10 million. And again, the Management Committee did review and approve this on September 14th. So with that, Mr. Chair, I would move to authorize the staff's recommendation on increasing our threshold from $2.5 million to $10 million, as stated in this report.
Great, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And discussion, I see we have a presentation. Were we going to hear from Judy, or it's at the option?
If there's a staff available to make that presentation, I don't have the presentation.
I'll ask Judy if that's something you're prepared to do, or is that just for our background? I think it's just for our background, unless anybody has any questions. It's been.
And Mr. Chair, I would say the Management Committee did receive the full presentation on this, and we had a lot of questions, and I think a good vetting of this, and I think it's a really good move. It really is, again, intended to help us through procurement much faster. It will help in the bidding climate, and again, it will really help more bidders get into that process in a more timely manner. We have those that are trying to bid on our projects that really can't wait long enough because of our current timeline. It's extended. So again, the presentation is here, and if there are any questions, I know Jody and others could answer any of those
We'll
questions.
live that way, but I appreciate the efficiency and the reason for the action. Thank you. Councilmember Chambliss, did you have a question?
Yes, I have a question, and hopefully it's not a dumb question. I just want to make sure that I'm clear. Are we extending the time for bids so that small business owners have more time? Or are we speeding up the process and they might not have enough time to bid?
Welcome,
I know
Ms.
we're writing this
Jacoby,
in
to answer all of our
real
questions.
terms, but.
Chair, committee member, if I understand your question correctly, it's about if the time with reducing from bid submittal to contract execution would give more time to our targeted vendors? Is that the question?
Yes.
The intent, thank you for that clarification. The intent with this really continuous improvement is to get from bid submittal to contract execution faster. DBEs and MCUBs and our prime contractors and subcontractors have really asked for the council to move faster, considering the supply chain issues, considering the issues with labor shortage. This is intended to benefit everyone, to be able to actually start the work and get to that notice to proceed. It's not intended to extend the time to do that DBE review, but it's really intended to just get from bid submittal to contract execution to deployment of the work happening faster.
Okay, that makes sense. I could see where they're able to plan and manage their contracts, subcontractors, et cetera, and retain them in a competitive market, so that makes sense.
Any other questions? Thank you. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That motion carried. Thank you, and thank you, Judy. We're on to the Transportation Committee. Councilmember Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, tonight I bring business item 2022-250, which is the Transportation Improvement Plan. It's to accept the TIP, public comment report, and adopt the TIP. The Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, is a four-year program of transportation projects funded in whole or in part with federal funding. The 2023 through 2026 TIP is a multimodal program of highway, transit, bicycle, and pedestrian projects in the Twin Cities metropolitan area. The TIP includes $5.6 billion in projects and contains projects using federal formula funds selected by MnDOT, the council, and projects selected through regional solicitations. The region revises its TIP every year. The TIP is consistent with the Transportation Policy Plan and with the FHWA and FTA conformity determination and has been recommended by TAB. TAB held a 45-day comment period and reviewed and provided the council with a public comment report, which included 30 comments from 17 sources. Therefore, Mr. Chair, I move that the Metropolitan Council adopt the 2023 through 2026 Transportation Improvement Program for the Twin Cities metropolitan area and certify that its conformance with all applicable federal regulations and requirements is outlined in the business item.
Great, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Sterner. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carried. We had a fast meeting, but there's time for any reports, comments anybody would like to share? All right, how about Regional Administrator?
I'll pass.
General Counsel?
I will pass.
I don't have anything to say either. Enjoy this beautiful day in fall. Thank you all for being here, and we'll see you soon. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.